In the old days a king ruled Wulayita. He was wise and kind to his people, and they loved him. The king always wore a turban on his head. He never took it off. The turban covered the king's secret. This secret was a birthmark, an ugly mark on his head. Nobody knew about the birthmark, and the king was ashamed of it. Why does our king always wear a turban? People asked each other, but nobody knew the answer. One day, the king went to take a bath. He took off his clothes, and took the turban off his head. But he forgot to cover the window of his bathroom. A man was walking along the road outside. He looked in through the bathroom window and saw the king. And he saw the birthmark on his head. The man was very surprised. I know the king's secret, he thought. He has a birthmark on his head. He hurried on into the town. Listen, he said to his brother. I know something. What do you know? Asked his brother. The king has a secret, said the man. He has a... Stop. Don't tell me, cried his brother. The king's secrets are dangerous. If you tell the king's secrets, his soldiers will take you to the edge of the gorge. They will cut off your head and throw your body down into the gorge. Really? Said the man. He looked worried. But I must tell someone the secret. Yes, but don't tell me, said his brother. The man tried to tell other people the king's secret, but no one listened. They were all afraid. The secret grew and grew inside the man. I must tell someone, he thought, or I will go mad. At last he had an idea. He ran to the river and dug a hole in the bank. Then he put his head down into the hole, and said, very quietly, the king has a birthmark on his head. The king has a birthmark on his head. After that, he filled the hole again, and went home. He felt better. The secret was not inside him now. The man never went back to the river. Reeds soon grew up and covered the hole. They grew big and strong. One day, many years later, the king decided to give a big feast. I want music at the feast, he told his servants. Call the musicians. I want them to play for me. My guests will come from far away. The musicians must play their best music. The musicians were worried when they heard this. We need new flutes, they said. Our old flutes don't make good music now. Let's go down to the river and cut some reeds. We'll make new flutes from them. They went down to the river and cut some reeds. They made beautiful new flutes from them. The night of the feast came at last. The cooks made delicious food, and plenty of beer and tej. Everyone ate and drank well. Where are the musicians? The king called out. Let them play now. 2 musicians, a singer and a flute player, came into the room. I have a new song for you, Your Majesty, the singer told the king. Here are the words. Our king is lion. He is brave and strong. He looks after his people all day long. Good. Very good, said the king. Begin your song. The singer began to sing, and the flute player lifted the flute to his mouth. He began to blow. But the flute began to sing too. Its sound was loud, much louder than the singer's voice. The king has a birthmark on his head, it sang. The king has a birthmark on his head. The king looked up. He was angry. Take this man away, he cried. Take him to the gorge and cut off his head. His servants ran forward and caught the poor flute player. They took him to the gorge and cut off his head. The king sat down again. "Where is the second flute player?" he asked. "Let him play." The second flute player came and stood in front of the king. "Start the song again," said the king to the singer. "Our king is a lion, he is brave and—" began the singer, but the second flute player's flute began to sing too, and it sang louder than the singer. "The king has a birthmark on his head," it sang. "The king has a birthmark on his head." The king was very, very angry. He jumped to his feet. "This man is my enemy too," he shouted. "Take him to the gorge and cut off his head. Are all my people against me? Where are the elders of Wulayita? Send them to—" The elders came to the king. They asked many questions, and spoke to many people. The flute players were good men, everyone said. They loved the king. They never said anything bad about him. At last, one wise elder said, "Where are the flute players' flutes? Bring them to me." The servants found the flutes and brought them to the elder. The old man lifted one of them to his mouth and began to blow. At once, the flute sang, "The king has a birthmark on his head. The king has a birthmark on his head." "Where did this flute come from?" the elder asked the other musicians. "The flute players cut reeds from the river," they told him. "They made their flutes from them." The elder went to the river. He talked to many people there. At last, he came back to the king. "Your Majesty," he said, "long ago, a man was walking past your palace. You were taking a bath. He looked through the window, and saw the birthmark on your head. He wanted to tell your secret to everyone, but he was frightened. So he dug a hole near the river, and spoke into the hole. Reeds grew in that place. The musicians made their flutes from them. The musicians didn't tell your secret. It was the flutes." The king was sorry when he heard this. "My flute players did nothing wrong," he said, "but I killed them. It's true. I have a birthmark on my head, and I am ashamed of it." He took off his turban, and showed his birthmark to the people. Nobody said anything. Nobody went away. "It's not important," they said. "Our king is a good man. His birthmark doesn't matter. You cannot hide the truth," the elders told the king. "It will always come out in the end." The king learned his lesson. He ruled wisely and well for many more years, and he never wore his turban again. Once upon a time, there was a sheep and a goat. They lived with a cruel farmer. He never took them to eat good grass. He never took them to the river to drink. They were thin, and always very hungry. One day, the goat said to the sheep, "Listen, my friend, I'm very, very hungry. If I don't eat soon, I'm going to die." "So am I," said the sheep. "Our master never takes us to the river to drink the clean, cool water and eat the long, green grass," said the goat. "Let's go alone. We will start early tomorrow morning." "That's a good idea," said the sheep. So the sheep and the goat got up early the next morning. They left the farm, and began to walk towards the river. They walked and they walked. "It's a long way," said the sheep. I'm tired, too," said the goat. "But think of the cold, clean river, and the long, green grass. We'll be there soon." Suddenly, a big lion ran up to them. "Aha! A sheep and a goat," said the lion. "That's good. I'm very hungry. He opened his mouth and showed his long white teeth. Wait, said the goat. Don't eat us, lion. You haven't got time. Didn't you know? The sky is falling on our heads. Run. Save yourself. The lion was frightened. He roared and ran away into the forest. The sheep and the goat went on. They were laughing. We're cleverer than the lion, they said. Soon they met a leopard. Oh ho! A sheep and a goat, said the leopard. I'll have them for my dinner. He opened his mouth and showed his long, white teeth. Stop, said the goat. Listen to me, leopard. You can't eat us. The sky is falling down. We're running away. You must run too. The leopard was frightened. He waved his tail and ran away into the forest. The sheep and the goat laughed louder. That stupid leopard, they said. Then they met a hyena. A sheep and a goat, said the hyena. They're my favorite meat. He opened his mouth and showed his long, white teeth. No, said the goat. Stop, hyena. Haven't you heard the news? The sky is falling down. Run away. Be quick. The hyena was frightened. He closed his mouth and ran away into the forest. The sheep and the goat laughed and laughed. We're the cleverest animals of all, they said. At last, they came to the river. The water was clean and cold. They drank and drank. Then they went to the field. The grass was long and green. They ate and ate. They were very happy. At last the goat said, It's late. We must go home. All right, said the sheep, and he followed his friend up the hill away from the river. Come on. We must go faster, said the goat. It's a long way to the farm. I can't, said the sheep. I'm tired, and I'm full of grass and water. Slowly, they went on. At last, they came to the top of the hill. The path went through the forest. It's getting dark, the sheep said. I'm frightened. I want to go home. It's a long way, said the goat. We can't go home tonight. Look, it's nearly dark. We must stay here all night. But I'm frightened, said the sheep. There are many wild animals here. Perhaps they will come and eat us. Don't worry, said the goat. Look, can you see that big tree? Let's climb it. We will sit in the branches all night. We'll be safe there. The goat ran to the tree and began to climb it. It was easy for him. He could climb it easily. The sheep tried to climb the tree too. It was difficult for him. He couldn't climb it easily. The goat helped him. At last, both of them were up in the tree. They were safe there. Good night, said the goat. I'm going to sleep now. Good night, said the sheep, and they went to sleep. After a long time, they suddenly woke up. Animals were talking under the tree. The sheep and the goat looked down. In the moonlight, they could see the lion, the leopard, and the hyena. They were sitting under the tree and talking. I was a fool today, said the lion. I met a sheep and a goat on the road. I wanted to eat them. Then the goat said, Don't eat us. The sky is falling. Run away. So I ran away into the forest. They were tricking me. The sky didn't fall at all. I met that sheep and goat, said the leopard. They tricked me too, and me, said the hyena. I believed them. I ran away. If I catch those two, the lion roared, I'll pull off their heads, and take out their hearts, and eat every part of them. I will, too, said the leopard. And I will, said the hyena. Up in the tree, the sheep and the goat were very, very frightened. What are we going to do? Whispered the sheep, very quietly. Nothing, whispered the goat. We must stay here and wait. The sheep and the goat sat still in the tree. But then the sheep began to move. What are you doing? Said the goat. Don't move, I must, said the sheep. I drank too much water today. I need to go to the toilet. You can't, said the goat. Keep still. If your urine falls on the lion, the leopard and the hyena, they will find us here. Didn't you hear them? They will pull off our heads, and take out our hearts and eat every part of us. But I must go, said the sheep. I can't wait any longer. Turn over onto your back, then, said the goat. Perhaps your urine will run into your wool. Perhaps it won't fall on them. The sheep tried to turn over, but he couldn't do it. He slipped, and fell out of the tree, onto the heads of the animals below. Ag, roared the lion. The sheep and the goat were right. The sky is falling on my head, on mine too, shouted the leopard, and on mine, barked the hyena. And they all ran away. The sheep and the goat laughed and laughed. Look, said the goat. It's nearly morning. Now we can go home. So they ran home safely, and they never went alone to the river again. An old man had 2 sons. One day, he called his sons and said to them, Listen, my sons. I am an old man and soon I will die. But first, I want to see you in your own homes. Go away now, and build homes for yourselves. Come back to me after a month and show them to me. The 2 sons went out of their father's house. The first one took his axe and went to look for trees. He found some tall ones near a road and began to cut them down. Soon he had a good pile of wood and he began to build his house. The second son went to the house of his friends. Make me your brother, he said to his friend. Let us be friends forever. So he put his mouth to his friend's nipple, and his friend put his mouth to his nipple. And they became brothers. The second son left his friend's house and met his brother in the road. How are you? The first brother said. I have built the walls of my first hut already. It's fine and big. Soon I will finish it. Have you built the walls of your hut yet? The second son smiled. Oh yes, he said. I am building a fine home too. The second brother went to visit another friend. Make me your brother, he said. Let us be friends forever. He put his mouth to his friend's nipple, and his friend put his mouth to his nipple. And they became brothers. Again the second brother met the first brother in the road. I have built the roof of my first hut, said the first brother, and now I am making the second hut, and I am making my second home too, the second brother said, and he went to visit his third friend. A month passed, and the 2 brothers returned to their father. Well, my sons, he said. Have you built your new homes? Let's go and see them. They went first to the oldest brother's home. 3 fine new huts stood inside a strong fence. "Well done, my son," the old man said. He went to the first hut. "Is anyone there?" he called out. "Visitors have arrived." He waited. "Is no one here?" he asked his son. "I'm tired. I want a stool to sit on." "No one is here," the oldest son answered. They went on to the next hut. "Is anyone there?" the father called out. "I'm thirsty. I need a drink." "No one is there," the oldest son answered. They went on to the third hut. "Who is there?" called out the old man. "I'm hungry. I want something to eat." "The hut is empty," his son said. "There's nothing to eat here." The old man shook his head. "My son," he said, "this is not a home." He turned to his second son. "And you?" he said. "Have you built a home?" "Yes, father," the second son said. "Come with me." He took his father to the house of his first friend. "This is my father and this is my brother," he said to his friend. His friend was very happy. He killed a sheep and made a big feast. They ate and drank happily together. Then the younger son took his father to the house of his second friend. "This is my father and this is my brother," he said. The second friend was very happy too. He killed a goat and made a feast. The old man and his son stayed there with their friends for a long time. Then they went on to another friend, and another, and another. At last they went home. The old man smiled at his younger son. "You have done well," he said. "You have learned an important lesson. A real home is not just a collection of huts. It is a place full of kindness and the love of friends." Once there was a troop of baboons. They lived peacefully together. They went out every day to look for food and slept at night on some big rocks. But one day, the biggest baboon decided to become their chief. He was a big, dangerous animal. "You must all obey me," he said in a loud voice. "I'm the cleverest. I'm the strongest. I'm the greatest of you all." Some of the other baboons tried to fight the baboon chief, but they were not strong enough or clever enough. The chief was too strong for them. He pulled their tails. He beat them and bit them. Soon all the baboons obeyed him. They were frightened of him. The baboon chief was happy now. "Who is the most important baboon around here?" he asked. "You are, sir." "You are," all the others answered. The baboon chief was the strongest baboon, but he was not the only big one. There were some other big baboons in the troop. "Sir," one old baboon said to him, "we all want to obey you. We all want to follow you, but we don't always recognize you. It's easy for us to follow the wrong baboon. Please wear something on your head. Then we will always know that you are our great and wonderful chief." "You stupid animals," the baboon chief said. "Don't you know your own leader?" Another old baboon spoke. "We are not clever like you, sir," he said. "And anyway, you are our king. A king wears a crown on his head. Look, we found this beautiful scarf. Please wear it for us." "Ahem." "Ah." "Oh," said the baboon chief. He looked at the faces of his troop. They were all watching him. They were afraid. Right, he said. I'll wear your scarf. But listen, all of you. I'm not happy with you. I'm not happy at all. You're not good baboons. You don't come quickly when I call. You don't bring me the best food. You don't follow me. But things are going to change. Do you want me to fight you? Do you want me to pull your tails and bite you and beat you? Then you must obey me. When I do something, you must do it too. When I say something, you must say it too. Do you understand? The other baboons looked at him. His teeth were long and sharp. He was very clever and strong. They were frightened of him. Yes, sir, they all shouted. We will obey you. Good, said the chief. Then tie the scarf round my head. So the baboons tied the scarf round the chief's head. He stood up and began to walk away. All the baboons followed him. He stopped walking and sat down. All the baboons sat down too. He ran up into a tree. All the baboons ran up into the tree too. He went to sleep. All the baboons went to sleep too. After a while, the baboon chief woke up. He had a headache. The scarf on his head was tight. He sat up and put his head in his hands. The other baboons all sat up and put their heads in their hands too. Oh! Oh! The baboon chief said. This scarf's too tight. It hurts, oh! Oh! All the other baboons said. This scarf's too tight. It hurts, take it off. Take it off, shouted the baboon chief. Take it off. Take it off, shouted the other baboons. It's killing me. Help me, cried the baboon chief. It's killing me. Help me, cried the other baboons. The baboon chief jumped up. He began to run along the top of the rocks. He was shouting and crying. All the other baboons followed him. They were shouting and crying too. Then the baboon chief fell off the rocks onto the ground far below. The other baboons jumped down on top of him. And so the baboon chief died. That was